Welcome to the Life's Best Medicine podcast, where we are finding hope and healing one episode at a time. No appointment needed, no rubber gloves, and no copay. Just a healthy dose of life lessons to help equip you for this wild journey we call life. Hey everyone, this is a friendly reminder that we are here for entertainment purposes only. We may not even be that entertaining at times, but this is not medical advice. Talk to your doctor, check with your healthcare professionals before making any lifestyle changes or medicine changes. What we're talking about is our clinical experience and what we've seen. And so if you really want our advice, you can consult us. You can actually consult me as a doctor, or you can consult my guest and get all your questions answered. But we can't give free medical advice because we can't pay our bills with that. But we can help to educate you a bit and allow you to think a little bit. And always reach out to your medical professional before making any lifestyle changes. Thank you. Oh my goodness, everyone. It's June already. What happened? This year's flying by. Before we know it, it's going to be the holidays again. So don't say I didn't warn you. We're in June, summertime, time to relax, have some fun. And so enjoy these episodes coming up. I want to thank my sponsors for sure. Keto Mojo, keto-mojo.com. They're my go-to for checking sugars and ketones. They're definitely indispensable. I mean, I use them all the time. And so my patients really benefit to know if they're actually in ketosis or not, especially people with seizure disorder or people really, really trying to get into this stuff. So the blood is the most accurate way to go. And Keto Mojo is doing a great job. Also, their website is outstanding. Tons of recipes and old talks that all of us have given. So if you're trying to learn more about metabolic health, that's a place to go. Also, of course, health code, gethealth.com, GETHLTH.com. Of course, they have their great shakes, vanilla and chocolate. I've been using them a lot with my seniors, especially trying to get some weight back on them or getting their muscle mass up and getting their sugars down. So hopefully we're going to be doing some studies in the near future to show the benefit in some of our most at-risk populations. And also they have berberine, which is something I've been pushing for a long time. Berberine's a great supplement to take to help improve insulin sensitivity and bring sugars down. So go check them out. And I'm so thankful for them sponsoring, and enjoy this episode. Hello and welcome back to the Life's Best Medicine podcast. I got the big gun here today, man. Vinnie Tortorich, welcome. I don't even have to give you an introduction, man. Everyone knows you around here. We complain about you all the time.
The big gun. Am I 50 cal? Am I like a 22 caliber, sporting rifle? What kind of gun am I?
You're the big gun, man. You're more like the bazooka gun. You're the guy who's been around a long time. You were like, man, back in the day. It's so disappointing that you look so good and everything,
Yeah. Thank you. Wow. Would you want money? What do you want from me?
I mean, I figure you won't pick on me if I'm nice to you at the very beginning. Then we'll see what happens.
Wow, you look so good. It's like, tell that to my wife. I feel good. I've been through a lot of crap. We were talking about that off the air. I've been through cancer again, and just getting through that. Just trying to do the best I can.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about that. Let's start with that, because you're a fit guy. You're doing all the right stuff. You're doing the right nutrition. You snuck out of California before me and decreased your stress levels, and then you just don't stop, man. You just keep going. You're motivated, but I think you have a passion, and that's different than being overworked, right? So what do you think was contributed to, after all these years, getting cancer back?
Well, I was told in 2007, when I was cured from the same leukemia back then, and you would understand us being a doctor and everything. They said, listen, your form of leukemia, we're calling this remission, but there is still an amount of that leukemia in your bone marrow, and it's going to grow back. But they said, look, the good news is we know how to fight it now, because your body handled this cladribine drug very well. And when it comes back in about 5 years, we'll just knock it back again. Well, my initial thought was, what if I could go longer than 5 years? Because anytime you take chemo, as you know, it's a harsh drug. it's messing up your body in other ways that you may never recover from, right? It's leaving a bit of a scar. So I remember asking my doctor, who had become a good friend, I said, Doc, how long has anyone ever gone on it? She goes, there's been cases where people have gone 8 and 10 years, but the average is 5. So look at it this way. If you get 6 years, consider that a major win, right? And I said, okay, so that, and it's funny, and I've told this story on many podcasts, but it bears repeating here. When I was walking out of her office, I was living in Hollywood at the time, and she knew who my clientele was. That's how I got to this doctor, was through some of my fancy clientele. When I was walking out of the office, she said, "You're the no sugars, no grains guy, right? Isn't that what you tell those celebrities to get them to lose weight?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Do that." I said, "Say, come again?" She goes, "Don't eat sugars and grains." And I said, "Well, what of it?" And she goes, "Well, no one's talking about it yet, but it's been studied for a while, and most cancers are closed cells, and they're not accepting oxygen from the outside, and everything needs oxygen to grow. And what we're figuring out is when you look at a carbohydrate, you have 3 components to a carbohydrate: carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So it's using the oxygen from the carbohydrate. It can beat that barrier. And that's how we think cancer may be forming and propagating and all this stuff. So if you stay away from sugars and grains, as you tell your clients, you may very well keep it away for 6 years. Well, she was absolutely wrong, because I didn't keep it away for 6 years. I kept it away for 17 years. Now, Brian, nobody is studying me going, how did this guy keep it? Because there's no record of any of this, right? It's just 17 years later, they see old man Vinnie walking in and say, "Yeah, we'll give him chemo again," right? Same chemo, by the way, cladribine,
Wow.
right? 17 years with no chemo. That's 3 times the length plus. And here's the crazy part. My blood numbers are coming back much quicker. You think my doctor's asking me about that? I'm not taking any of the prophylactic drugs. They had me on the prophylactic drug that I was supposed to be on for 4 months. I was having some side effects from them after a week. So they gave me a steroid on top of that, prednisone, to counteract. So I got my doctor on the phone and I said, "Doc, sounds kind of crazy, but I'm taking a drug, 2 drugs, prophylactically so that I might not catch something else." He goes, "That's right." And I said, "But they're causing my whole body has hives. So instead of taking me off the drug, now you have me on prednisone. So a 3rd drug. And now I can't sleep. And you told me that sleep was the most important thing." So he looked at my blood numbers and said, "Your blood numbers are strong enough. We're taking you off of everything." And since I'd only been on the prednisone for 2 days, they didn't have to titrate me off. They told me just go off. Right. That's
Yeah.
where we are with medicine, when you can talk your doctor out of something.
Well, you have a good doctor, because a lot of doctors go, "That's a protocol. That's just what we do." Instead of going, "Wait, let's think about this for a minute. Why are we doing this?" And then they say, "Oh, you're not sleeping because of the prednisone? Okay, we'll give you a sleeping pill, right?" And then now the sleeping
Right.
pill's causing this other problem. Well, we'll give you a pill for that. And now you're on 14 pills, right? And then you got to go through chemo. So, doing all that stuff, you start realizing, especially when you go 17 years and people don't say, "Hey, how did you go 17 years without getting this
Right.
back?" Because had you gotten a recurrence 5 years ago and hit chemo there, then you're set up for all these other different cancers down the road. Now that you're an old fogey, we don't have to worry so much about all that stuff.
Right. And, look, this doctor saw that I went 17 years, but not one question, right?
We've
Because
lost our curiosity as a doc. I could tell you that. Like, people just go, "Okay." I have people that lose 58 pounds doing NSNG. They go back to their doctor. They're off all their meds, their blood pressure, everything's better. And they don't say, "Hey, what the heck are you doing? This is great."
look, the only reason we found out about Dr. Atkins was because a guy walked in after a year and lost like 100 pounds. And Atkins said, "How did you do it?" And he goes, "I found Banting's letter on corpulence."
Yeah.
And he goes, "As a matter of fact, my friend did it with me, and he lost like 100 pounds too." So Atkins got interested. He got curious and he started interviewing these two men. And before long, he did it to himself and lost weight. And then that sparked the Atkins diet. That's how, it was the curiosity of one man. And you're right. As doctors, we've lost that. And I was just doing my own podcast with Gina Grant, and she was like, why wasn't your doctor curious? I said, because I'm not the shiny object. I said, I walk in, my resting heart rate, I walk in, I sit down, my heart rate is 52. And then they put the pulse oximeter on me and it shows 99 or 100 every day. And my blood pressure, every day that I went in every day for an infusion for like 7 days. Every day I walked in, my blood pressure was exactly 118 over 71. I said, everything was perfect, right? I'm not a shiny object. They're not worried about me. He's handling the chemo just fine. When his nurse calls me at night, I'm usually on my spinner, right? I'm not the shiny object. It's like, oh, old man Vinny's doing fine. We have other people who are throwing up and this and that and the other thing from much more difficult cancers than people losing hair and people dying, right? I'm not the shiny object. It's like, let's not look at him because he's doing just fine.
Yeah,
Right.
you lose their attention because you're not sickly and you're not going there massively inflamed already, and then you get this huge inflammatory reaction on top of it. And so you're an outlier from that standpoint, right? That you're
Right.
healthy. And probably, I mean, I have to ask you just from a mental perspective, first time you got diagnosed, 17 years later, you get diagnosed again. What's your mindset thought pattern different from the first time to now?
It's funny. The first time, man, this might be the wackiest question. I know it doesn't sound like a wacky question, but it is. The first time I didn't care because I didn't have a life and a wife and a kid or anything. It was, I had met Serena, but it didn't take. Like we met through a friend out of Starbucks when they just ran into him. And I didn't have anyone in my life. And I looked around and I was like, I'm in my early 40s. If I die, I die. I'm not
Mhm.
leaving anyone, right? And as a matter of fact, I wrote a handwritten will and got someone to notarize it to give all of my worldly possessions to my brothers, and we're good, right? Just split it up equally, and that was that. I'm not afraid of death. In life, when I was a kid, I buried 5 friends. We had some tragedy in our class as kids, and never been afraid of death. So, but I didn't feel like I was going to die. I just felt like I have to go through this and I'm going to beat this.
Mhm.
There were lonely moments in that where you're going, is this how it's going to end? That kind of thing. Because I was really sick the first time. They caught it late stage. This time they caught it early enough. I didn't have all the symptoms I had last time. They caught it pretty early stage. I had to go through the same amount of chemo. I was because I live low carb and I live in ketosis all the time. I, I just basically walked through it. As a matter of fact, the only feeling I had was guilt because I would walk into the infusion center every day and I would see some of the same faces. And I knew that some of these people weren't going to live, and it breaks my heart. It hurts me right now, even to say it. There's this beautiful Asian woman in a wheelchair and she was young. God, she was young. She couldn't have been 30. It's hard to tell because no hair, no eyebrows, and the whole thing. And Asian people tend to look younger than they are to begin with. And she would look at me, and I would look at her, and and I would just go, oh my God, I don't think she's gonna. I don't think this woman.
Yeah, you see that
This is
look in
where
their
her life.
eyes and the face and
Yeah,
everything, and yeah.
this is where her life ends. In a freaking cancer center at UVA. I hope somehow she makes it. I want to know that this woman makes it. And there was this other young woman I would see in the waiting room, and she was younger than my daughter. My daughter's 27. And I would sit there and just get angry, right? I got angry looking at other people going, why? Why her? Why is she here? You know, um, you're a doctor, and have you ever? I tell everyone, if you ever start bitching about your own life, go visit a children's hospital, and you will never bitch again.
Yeah,
And-
yeah. Go to the third world, some of the healthcare they see there, and you're like, you're never going to complain again. That's true. You
yeah.
go there and you see it, and you see how people are treated. And as a matter of fact, I was thinking when you were talking about it, someone I knew in Utah, I was there for a speaking engagement, and we were driving. He was talking about what his mom did for a living, and she was a oncology nurse. I mean, oncology doctor,
Mhm.
and the IV pole, she said we have one IV pole, that's it. Everyone's hanging their chemo on the same pole. So it forced everyone to be in proximity of each other, and her mortality numbers were the lowest of any. Then they're asking what she was doing, and like people would talk to her, how are you doing? How's chemo going? How you're in your third, and so people talking to each other, that human connection, that saying, gosh, they're worse off than me. Like this energy we pass to each other, and just
Yeah.
saying, how are you doing today? How's that? Yeah, I was nauseated last week. It was really bad when I was on that. Now I'm getting better. Those kind of things. Just hearing that there's hope and future, that's a huge thing for us, all of us.
Yeah, I really, I think there's something to that. My question became, you know, like after my book was like a big deal, it kept selling, and here we are 11, 12 years later, and it still sells. And we always tried to figure out what causes that book to continue to sell. And what we've learned is it gets handed around to cancer patients because I talk about cancer in the book, and I'm a success story that came out of cancer and then did something, right? And it's like, wow, when I wrote the book, I'm going to be honest with you. I wrote it so I can make some money. So I can, it's like, oh my God, I'm going to tell my story and make some money. I had no idea that that book would become something that people would grab onto and go, this idiot made it. I can make it too. Right. You never think that. You never think how you're going to affect other people. And that became a very strong thing in my life. It's like, you know what? Live for other people because that's the only thing you can do. And now I'm in a place where I don't really know anyone. I'm in this weird town. We just moved here a few years ago, and I'm in this cancer center, and I'm just looking at people going, hang in there, hang in there, hang in there, hang in there. And I hope the Asian lady makes it, and I hope the little 21-year-old girl makes it, and all of these other people I saw in there. When you see them with no hair, no eyebrows, and I don't, I got to keep my eyebrows and some of my hair, but not everyone does, right? Not everyone does, and it's it breaks my heart in a weird sort of way. It makes us realize that all the shit that we think is real in the world is not real.
Oh, you think what matters? Like you get that diagnosis, you go, okay, like all this other stuff, like politics or whose football team's winning. Like none of that stuff matters anymore, right?
All,
You go, okay,
all out the
this
door.
is kind of important. I gotta focus on this.
Yeah. All you
Yeah.
have is your memories. Any possessions you have just does not matter. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll say, gosh, dang it, Vinny, this is painful for me to have to say a couple of nice things about you. But one thing I've always noticed, like on Twitter, like I'll say all of a sudden at whatever time it is for you, Vinny comes on, blah, 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 respond to all the people who are following, all these things. And so many
Right.
people they don't engage at all. And it's amazing. Like you put in such an effort of, helping people and caring about people. I had two patients in the last 2 weeks that said, I go, how'd you hear about me? NSNG. You and you and Vinny were tweeting about something or whatever. What, what I mean? But your presence you're out there. You're not just like, okay, I'm gonna make my money and go do my own thing and not worry about everyone out there. And your engagement is amazing.
No, I appreciate hearing that. Most of what I do online is free, and I want to keep it that way. I do the podcast for free. I do Twitter every single day. Last night, I was so dog tired. I'm going to tell you, you're the first person I'm telling this story to. My wife was gone for 2.5 weeks, and she, in England, and she had to go there, funeral and this and that, all kinds of family stuff. I had to pick her up at Dulles. So Dulles is exactly 99 miles door to door when you punch it into the Waze, right?
Mm.
So, I get to Dulles, pick up Serena, and we drive back home. So it's a 200-mile trip. We are 5 minutes from our door. from what she's dead tired. She has trouble sleeping on a plane. You know, she's half annoyed, half asleep. We get home, and 5 minutes before we reach our door, the phone rings. It's British Airways. And they said, Miss Scott Thomas, we think you picked up the wrong bag. We have your bag here, and you have so and so's bag. Serena goes, no, that's not possible. We got home, we fed the dogs. While she was feeding the dogs, I scrambled up 3 eggs. We got back in the car. We were back in the car within 12 minutes and drove back all the way to Washington. So yesterday I drove 400 miles. When dead tired, I'm still dealing with cancer and and everything else. By the time I showered and got in bed, it was almost 1 in the morning. And my eyes were closing before I went to bed. I answered every tweet. And Serena was like, just let it go. I was like, you know what? I can't, because there might be a guy that's asking me about something that can help save him tomorrow, right? And if I just skip over these past 10 hours, 12 hours of tweets, he might go in the wrong direction. And she goes, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. I went, in my mind, it's the only sanity I have. Dead tired, 400 miles.
You're insane, Vinny.
I had to do the tweets.
Man, I'm not letting my wife listen to it. We had that. It's funny you said that. That happened to, like that. That just happened to a friend of mine in Europe, and someone took her bag, and they had to go all over trying to. It was crazy. But the one time my wife and I were coming from out in Arizona, we drove to Phoenix, and we were to swim meet for our kids, and we're exhausted. It was a long week, and we get all the way there to turn in the rental car, and we're early. I'm like, this is great. And then my wife goes, honey, I think I might have left my purse at the hotel. I'm like, well, they're gonna have to mail it to us or something, because like, and she said, well, the tickets, the keys to our car, that's at everything was in there. I was like, oh my gosh. So I was so calm, Vinny. We drove all the way back, and I was calm, didn't say it. Like in my mind, I'm like, I was just here. You and that feeling, you're like, I was just here. Oh, I just saw that Starbucks. And we went all the way there, all the way back, and I just say, she's like, are you mad? I'm like, no, I'm good. Like we were laughing and having, she was like, I can't believe it. I go, I'm putting this feather in my hat because I'm saving this, because
Yeah.
when I do something stupid, which I know I will, you're gonna have more grace for me, right? So we get back there, and the guy's like, "Oh shoot, you're 10 minutes late. We're gonna have to charge you for another day on the car." I'm like, "Okay, no problem, whatever." But it was funny. It's just a funny, like you go through that stuff. You're like, "Oh my gosh," you get home and you put your key in you're ready to just get home, and you're thinking we're just gonna relax, but you got quality time together, so that's good. But that does say something about sending the tweets out and all that kind of, or X or whatever we're gonna call it now. So
it's an interesting thing, because when we were leaving, I'll just add this and we could get on with the podcast. When we were leaving the airport the second time with her bag, and we returned James something's bag, the message came on, please check your luggage and make sure you have the correct luggage. And
yeah.
Serena and I looked at each other. She goes, every time I hear that, I say to myself, who's dumb enough to take the wrong bag?
Yeah. Right? Yeah, then it happens. You're like, oh, okay. But you think, it's hard.
And the bags were identical. Identical.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah. Fun stuff. I put duct tape and stupid stuff on my goggles. That's mine right there. The one that looks like garbage, that's mine right there. So that's the trick. You got to learn that stuff. You can't be all fancy, because there's other fancy people with fancy bags. You might get it screwed up.
We don't have fancy bags. That's the problem. We have the most common bags.
Yeah.
Other people have common bags that look exactly like ours.
What's funny, that's that these smart travelers, you go, look at that ugly suitcase. You're like, oh, it's bright neon green. That's why, because no one else has that color. Yeah. Like, get the ugly suitcase you could find. You could find it when you get there.
Yeah.
So Mr. Fata documentary. Now you stepped into the keto stuff, and you're having trouble getting the dang thing out. I want to hear about this story, because I see people on X ask you, like, what the heck, what's going on, what's the delay? And it's not you're waiting for this, you wait for these stupid things to get released. I got to see it. I'm a privileged one, and it was amazing. You did a great job. Dirty keto.
Yeah,
that's a great transition for us.
Yeah, look, I first off, let's talk about the elephant in the room. This time I did not go through Gravitas Ventures. I said, let me just release one of my own and just go to one place, go to Amazon and do it there. And that's what we did. Amazon always gets everything up in 30 days. They say, hey, this will be out in 30 days. Well, 30 days would have been the 30th of May. We're recording this on the 14th of June, which means it's 15 days late. When the 30th came and went, I went, okay, they could be behind, 1 or 2 days behind. And then we kept writing to them and we didn't get anything back. And then around the 5th of June, they wrote back and said, oh, yeah, we're just backed up. But now and I've called friends of mine who have put movies out on Amazon. It's like, were they? It's like, no, they got us out ahead of time. You know, they say 30 days is like the end of, when they would get it out. So I'm actually looking at alternatives now. When you put this out, Brian, the movie may still not be out, but I'm looking at alternatives. I'm going to call Gravitas and go, mea culpa, sorry, you guys
Yeah.
done
Hey
well by me
guys,
in 3 documentaries.
it's like your
Uh,
ex-girlfriend. Like my girlfriend just dumped me. What are you doing right now?
but I just wanted to try one of my own. And so I may go back to them. There are other avenues we can take where we can sell it. Some people ask me if I would go to Daily Wire, and I don't mind going to someone like Daily Wire, but that's a subscription and not everybody. And I think Daily Wire is a political thing, and I think it's a right-wing thing, which I'm okay with. I don't care about the right or the left. I care about getting people healthy.
Yeah.
But if I sell it to someone like Daily Wire, half the people will never see it. And
Yeah, totally.
I don't want that to be an issue either. I want everyone to be able to see it. People that are Democrats won't go to Daily Wire to watch it, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely. Yeah.
I don't do politics, right? So I don't
It's
know if
because
I
you're
want.
not a doctor. If you prescribe certain medicines, then you're on the right or the left or whatever crazy thing we've become now, Vinny.
No, I can't understand. Look, I left California when they decided that coffee was a carcinogen, one of the healthiest things you can drink. Well, coffee has acrylamide, and acrylamide is not good for you. Known to the state of California as being unhealthy. Okay, next to water, coffee is the healthiest thing you can drink. Right? The American Heart Association signed off on that. Right? But according to the state of California, it's a problem. So I don't know how any doctor would be in California. My friend, Dr. Drew Pinsky, is still there. Every time I talk to Drew, he goes, yeah, I keep thinking just go to New York, go to New York. It's like, well, you're jumping out of the frying pan and jumping right into the fire by going to
Yeah,
New York.
Tro's talked to me, moved to New York. I'm like, did you just see your New York dance team police crazy stuff? And yeah, I mean, it's insane. So,
Yeah.
I am spending some time up in the mountains. I'm migrating over to Arizona. Uh, and I love it, man. It's like different free. I see what you're saying. Like, yeah, when you kind of when you start seeing the insanity that's around you, you say, wow, this is not sustainable. Like this is crazy. And a lot of the big industries are leaving and people are leaving. And, it's I think it's a sinking ship unless some smart people get in there and figure it out. It's a beautiful state, beautiful stuff. San Diego's nice. But, I see it getting worse and worse over the years. So back to your
Well,
movie, man.
I was watching, I think it was Adam Carolla, someone was interviewing Dennis Prager or someone like that. And Dennis Prager's squarely on the right. But they were talking about at the time, um, Toyota had pulled out of California. So that's a big corporation. Toyota leaves California and goes to, I think, Texas or something like that. And they were talking about it and they said, it's one thing when Toyota leaves. That's a big, giant thing and you can see it, right? And Dennis Prager said, the problem is that the Vinnie Tortoriches of the world are leaving California. And no one knows about those guys, but they run businesses, they employ people,
Pay
and
taxes.
pay taxes. And when Vinny leaves, no one knows. They use my name, and they said, think of how many Vinnies are leaving, and if you add all of those guys up, the small businessmen who employ several people and go to different states and employ people there, then you're causing a problem, right? That's where the problem begins because no one sees the Vinnies or the Brian Lenskes of the world leaving, but we're leaving in droves, right? And that's where the problem becomes for California.
Yeah, you want the good people to stay. You need those guys around. You want to be nicer to those people and not chase them out of your neighborhood. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. I think that's it. And at some point you go, okay, I love this place, but not enough to sacrifice my kids and my family and my sanity. And you look at it in San Francisco, you have to leave your doors unlocked and leave your windows down so people don't break your window. They break your window and then you got to go pay to get your windows fixed all the time and your insurance goes. It's just the insanity of all this stuff. And you like to have some rules. I can't believe, Vinny, I'm trying to get you back to your movie now, man. Because
Oh, okay, go on. The movie I can't seem to sell. Let's talk about
all
it.
right, the documentary, it's excellent, by the way. I really liked it, and let's talk about it because it will be out, and I'm hoping to get this one out soon too. Hopefully, I can figure out how to get them together. But you do a really good job of going through it because I hear that all the time, and you know sad to say, but NSNG again, you go, okay, let's simplify this thing. We made it so complicated. You go, okay, that people go, I like brownies, so I'm gonna have brownies every night, but they're gonna have coconut flour instead of, and they don't realize that they're not getting any success because of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I started seeing it early on. Look, I'm one of the guys that kind of, brought this low carb thing into the modern era. I don't pretend to have created keto by any stretch. I mean, the aforementioned Banting back in the early 1900s, whenever you wrote the letter on corpulence, was talking about it. We've known about this for a long time. My good friend Gary Taubes wrote Good Calorie, Bad Calorie long before I came along. Um, but I think I was one of the early guys on the internet coming on to talk about it into a podcast. We now have well over 2,500 podcasts out there. So we've been talking about this for a long time. And over time, I started getting invited, and I love Robin Switzer to death. She runs KetoCon, and I think they're even trying to rebrand that. I saw this year was KetoCon / Hack Your Health.
Hmm.
I don't know what the hell that means, but
Well,
love
because
Robin
you look
to
at it,
death.
like keto's got so, like you're talking about, it's got so bastardized. And if you say keto,
Yeah.
doctor goes, do not do that. That's a fad. That's crazy. Because I'm doing a modified Mediterranean diet, eating the same exact thing. Oh, that's brilliant. You're doing a great job, right?
Yeah, but we've bastardized the term. And so, you know, I'm looking at it a few years ago, it was 2017, 2018. I was at KetoCon, and that's when they had all these people setting up booths. And this is before big food really got into it, right? Keto was like hitting its stride, and all of these small players started making keto treats, like the aforementioned keto brownies and keto this and keto that. And they were asking me to try these products. And I was gracious and said, you know what? I just ate something. Let me take it back to my booth. I'll try it later and come back and report on it. And may I do that? And absolutely. Everybody wanted me to try their product because they wanted to be on the podcast. I get it. Um, so at some point, and this sounds gross, I went to the bathroom. You probably know this story, and the urinals were being used. So I walked into one of the stalls, and it looked like someone had horrible diarrhea in that stall. So I was like, "Ooh, I don't want to go here." So I walked into the next stall, and there was some sprinkling of diarrhea in that stall too. And I was like, "Man, everyone's exploding here." And maybe the next day or later on that day, I went to a different bathroom in the building and used the urinal, but then I kicked open the stall, and I could see where
You're
remnants of
curious
diarrhea.
now.
I
Yeah.
know this sounds weird, but that's me. I'm a curious guy. It's like, why is everyone here having diarrhea? And I started figuring out it's because they're eating a ton of erythritol and all these other fake sugars that in any amount will give you diarrhea.
These
Right?
non-absorbable, yeah, non-absorbable sugar alcohols, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember that? Remember oh gosh, darn it! Now I'm blanking. That remember they were putting the stuff in the potato chips. I go, you get all the chips you want now, and Olestra,
Alestra.
and
Alestra.
everyone's crapping their pants all day long. They go, let's not do this anymore.
If
Yeah,
you
you're right.
modify fat in certain ways, like Alestra, it will cause that to happen. As a matter of fact, everyone likes coconut oil. And if you eat coconut oil, it's fine up to a certain degree. But if you refine it into MCT oil, now if you have just a little too much MCT oil, it will run through you,
Hmm.
right? It will, like, you better be in the bathroom fast, right? That's why I tell people it's like use coconut oil. You can get away with a lot more. Too much of a good thing is a bad thing. So, and some of these products had a lot of MCT oil in them. So between that and the erythritol, people were crap and say, okay, the idea behind this is not to crap your brains out all the time. Right. So that was my first clue as to we're going down the wrong path. And then it got worse because I'm always on Twitter and Instagram. I look around and people are going, "Hey, Vin, you know, I'm eating keto bread and keto pancakes and keto." I'm like, keto pancakes? It's an oxymoron. Keto bread, keto pasta, keto. So I'm looking down that rabbit hole and I'm thinking to myself, there's a problem here because I started seeing terms that didn't make sense to me, right? I have access to doctors like you, people like Ivor Cummins, people like Ken Berry, people like Gary Taubes, Nina Teicholz. All of a sudden, I'm seeing this new term that I had never heard before, and it was called net carbs. I'm like, net carbs. So I went down the net carb rabbit hole, and I couldn't find where it was made up out of whole cloth. Net carbs are not a thing, right? So if your audience is not familiar with it,
No, we've talked about it, but yeah, go for it, Vinny.
okay. So if something has 20 grams of carbohydrates, but there's 15 grams of fiber, these companies, these big companies are now saying that you can subtract the fiber, miraculously subtract it from the total carbohydrates. So instead of having 20 carbs, you can now say you have 5 carbs because you took 15 from 20 and you're at 5. Well, tell that to your liver. It's just not, it's not real, right? So that was the beginning, seeing what's going on at KetoCon, seeing what's happening in big business, and then seeing terms like keto certified. And you saw what in the movie what that was.
Yeah, it's all BS, right? Yeah.
It's just all made up out of whole cloth.
Yeah, and so that those are things you have to sit back and go, okay, and you think about it, people go, well, Vinny's saying that Atkins is great. Yeah, but now you got Atkins bars and Atkins all these things, and it from what Atkins originally did, said to eat meat and steak, right? Eat that, eat
Yeah.
salmon, but then now all of a sudden you have bars and you look at the ingredients, you go, oh, I don't think that sounds really good. It's like, it's like a Snickers bar except they didn't put the sugar in it, basically, right?
Yeah, like after Robert Atkins died and his family, whoever took over the company, they basically sold it to a big company. And that's when they started making bars and shakes and powders and you name it. And then, Atkins
Because it's
was,
marketable, because you got enough
yeah,
people doing that. You go, okay, it's marketable.
yeah. And then, my good friend Robert, Eric Westman, and a few other people wrote the new Atkins for the new you and all this kind of stuff, which is a good book. But it doesn't, what they're telling you to do in the books and what they're telling you to do in real life is not the same thing,
Well, because
right?
most people aren't going to read the book. They're just going to go, oh, there's the bars. It's healthy. Let's do it, right? Then I'm going to go have my ice cream afterwards because I saved so many, calories. As a matter of fact, Vinny, it just happened yesterday. My office manager said this lady's calling. She's upset. She went to the Keto Con or something, and she got a Dexcom 4-day thing, and she's upset because her sugars are so high. And I'm like, okay, let's go through it. She goes, I'm doing perfect keto. Okay, let's see. Like, okay, I see this big. I see it now. What happened at like 10 o'clock last night or 2 nights ago? I just had a keto ice cream. It shouldn't do that. I go, it shouldn't, but it did. Let's look at it. What brand? And we look it up together, and I'm showing her, and you can see third ingredient, maltodextran. She said there's no sugar. I go, maltodextran. Look at what that is. That's sugar. That's a
Yeah.
different name. But and there was 3 different areas on that label where they use different types of sugar, and then they put in a little allulose or something, or not allulose. It was like xylitol or something. You go, okay. And you see that just like the olive oil. And I actually, funny enough, I heard you talking about just after I interviewed someone talking about this is organic. All this stuff this is organic. And the criteria they use, you go, oh my gosh, like it has to go 3 weeks without using chemicals, then you could do whatever the heck you want.
I wrote a whole book that I've never published after I wrote Fitness Confidential. And I went down the organic rabbit hole and the things that the government let you get away with to put the organic label on is unheard of. It is just completely I mean, if you saw what it is and if you just did a deep dive on it, I mean, you can put all of these natural killers on the planet. They call them natural killers, which are just as dangerous as all the other crap. And if none of that works, then you can go use the Monsanto crap or Agent Orange, which is basically what it is, and all of this stuff, and still call it organic because you tried, right? So your organic is probably worse than the non-organic, is what it comes down to.
Yeah, and it's crazy when you look at that. Like, yeah, and you start wondering, it's like maybe when I cut those things out, this Sabine Hazen, who I've interviewed here, I don't know if you know who she is, she's a gut microbiome expert. And I said, what do you tell your patients? What are the first things you tell them, like if they want to really get their microbiome right? She said, I tell them not to eat salad. And I said, what?
Yeah.
Why not salad? Because the oil, right? The dressing. She said, well, that adds to it, but right behind my place is an organic. I interviewed like 2 days before I saw you on there, and you were talking about it. And she says, yeah, it says organic, but they spray the heck out of it. Every morning I'm watching these guys in white suits with like dangerous stuff on the side of the truck, and they spray the heck out of it.
Yeah.
And that's organic. And you go, oh my gosh, like that is not what you want to be eating. And then then I saw you talking. I was like, oh, she's not making this stuff up. This is like they get around the rules. They figure out and they go, oh, didn't, we tried this other thing, didn't work. Okay, let's just go at it. Yeah, it's wild.
I think the world is coming around on guys like me and this doctor because, I used to be, just give Vinny his tinfoil hat and let him talk. But since COVID, I think COVID opened up, COVID might have been a good thing. I'm starting to think COVID was a good thing because it opened up so many eyes to how you could be lied to by the government and the WHO. And, I was just talking to Adam Carolla about this the other day when I was on his show. I said, when I used to come on your show back in 2015 and I would mention the WHO, you guys you had never heard of it before. You didn't know. They were the WHO, the WHO. What are you talking about? They didn't want to hear about it. I was like, oh no, the NIH, the WHO. I'm telling you, these people, they don't have your best in. They're like, we don't even know what you're talking about then. Calm down. Then all of a sudden, COVID comes around. We learn what the WHO is, and we learn what the NIH is, and we learn what all these things are. We learn these terms. And we realize that, oh, wait, Fauci will just get on television and lie to you, just out and out loud. Now, whether you love Fauci or not, I don't give a fuck. Can I say fuck on your show? I'm sorry.
Did.
I have to cut it out. I don't care what you think, but I was watching with everyone else in real time when Dr. Fauci came on and said, literally, don't wear a mask. It won't do anything. Don't wear a mask. And then a couple of weeks later, it's like, wear a mask. I say, well, you just said don't wear a mask. No, wear a mask and stay 6 feet apart.
2 masks now.
And then later on, he got to 2 masks. And I figured out, and it's like, okay, they're making this stuff up because then I read where at first, Fauci's words, the only mask that will work is a medical grade N95 worn properly. Right. And you know what that means? You can't even breathe in those things, right? The ones where you have to tie it twice and the whole thing. No one was using that mask. Right. So I had to fly. I had to go somewhere emergency. So I had to fly during COVID when people still thought if you got COVID, you're going to die the next day. Right. Body bag, the whole thing. So I'm like sitting there going, oh my God, I'm in the airport. You're going through TSA and they're going, wear a mask. And if you pull your mask down, you're breaking the rule. You will be arrested. This is what they were saying in the airport. Keep your mask up. Do not put it below your nose. The announcement kept, you're going through TSA, keep your mask up. Once you got into the airport, FFA rules, keep your mask up at all times. If you violate these rules, you will be arrested. My mask is on, right? I get on the airplane. It is against the law to remove your mask, even in the bathroom. Keep your mask up at all times during this flight. Keep your mask up. Do not pull your mask down. And man, I'm keeping this mask on, right? Because I'm a rule follower.
Yeah, I'm a rule follower too.
As soon as we got up to altitude and they come around, she goes, would you like something to drink? And I'm like, oh, but look something to drink. We don't have this mask on. And she was like, oh, no, you could pull your mask down and drink. There's an old woman next to me, and when the stewardess flight attendant, I don't know what they call them today, the flight attendant walks away, she goes, sir, order a glass of wine I said, but I
Sip
don't
it.
drink wine. She goes, just order a glass of wine and put it on your tray, and you could keep your mask off the
Yeah.
entire flight. It's like, okay. So everything I heard today was bullshit. I'm going to get arrested at TSA. I'm going to get arrested by the FFA. I'm going to get arrested on this flight unless I have a glass of wine sitting in front of me. Then all bets are off.
Well, you're in the sitting down position.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're sitting down, the restaurant's fine. So I was
If
at
you're
a
walking around,
restaurant.
you're
I asked them. I said, "Hey, if my dad or someone comes in a wheelchair, do they have to put the mask on if they're wheeling in the whole time?" And they're like, I'm not sure. Let me go ask the manager." Like, what do you, that's what when Tro and I were talking about, we go, there's no science to that. Like, if there's studies showing this, okay, like, where's the study showing that outside you're going to spread all that? I mean, the problem was, like you said, if you don't question, go, where do you guys getting your data? Right now, they're saying, oh yeah, we never had data for that. We just said it was a good idea. We didn't
yeah.
really mandate that stuff. Yeah, every night you were on the news telling everyone that they were going to die if they stood up when they were outside that little circle, right?
Well, listen, you were in California. The place I flew for that flight was California, right? I get there and I went out to eat. And so where I was living here, people were able to walk into restaurants, sit, everyone was sitting, everyone was eating. They had that stupid, you had to walk to your table. The people here was, mask drooping down, the whole thing. What I did was I would take, whenever I put a mask on, I would take my key, my car key, and punch a bunch of holes in it. No one cared. No one cared. I put a bunch of holes so my glasses wouldn't fog up. Right. So you're in the restaurant and you go to California. The restaurant was closed, but they had a tent on the outside because
Yeah,
they
you
could
could go
only
in the
do
tent.
outside dining. But the tent was completely closed in. The difference is there's no air conditioning
There's no ventilation.
recirculating the
Yeah, there's no
air.
ventilation.
So it's like, okay, you're pretending that we're outdoor dining. No, we're all breathing the same air over and over and over.
Do you know,
There's
Vinny, if we
nothing
had
to
this
separate it out.
conversation a year ago, we'd both be banned permanently from social media, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Right. And we may still you may give me, I've been taken out 4 times from one of the big ones. So let's see if we can make it five, Vinny. We're going for it, man. We're going for it.
Look,
But the
it's
same,
just
to
ridiculous.
your point, I drove to Arizona during that time and I walk into a restaurant and everyone's sitting there like enjoying themselves. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just came from the lockdown unit and these guys, I go everywhere I go, it's like, wait a minute. These guys aren't like totally insane here. Like they're like talking to each other, enjoying each other's company because as we've already established, the importance of this social connection, social interaction, all these things. And and that's one thing you've done through your podcast and you bring people together and say, I'm not the only one eating this weird, crazy NSNG stuff. And they can go in and people, oh, you're NSNG or you're low carb. And so people know it's not this freakish thing that it was 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, look, the whole thing was great. I remember telling my parents because I had to go home and take care of my mom during the pandemic, and I said, "Look, Ma, do not trust these masks. They don't work." I said, especially in a grocery store. And she goes, "What do you mean they don't work?" My cousin's outside, and I knew he's outside doing some work. I knew he smoked. I called him and I said, "Hey, you got a cigarette on you?" He goes, "You smoke?" I went, "No. Do you have a cigarette for you?" He goes, "Yeah, absolutely." I said, "Come on, man." So they're in my mom and dad. My mom and dad are sitting in their chairs. And I said, "Okay, light up a cigarette."
Mm.
Okay. I said, "What I want you to do is take a puff and I want you to expel it through your nose and your mouth as you're walking across the room." And he said, "Okay." So he takes a puff, he walks across the room, and as he's letting it come from his nose and his mouth, it comes out like this and billows right behind him, right? And goes straight back. I said, "Okay, I want you to take another puff, put this mask on." Takes a puff, it billows out and it goes. I said, "Okay, you're walking next to someone in the grocery store or you're passing someone in the grocery store. Look at that." And my mom went, "Oh my God, I had no idea." I said, "Yeah, everyone thinks somehow this mask is blocking anything. You're just billowing out all of your crap to the side. And by the way, that smoke is probably a lot drier than what's coming out of most people's lungs because what comes out of their lungs is water. Because guess what? That's how we burn fat. We expel it through our mouths. It comes out as water, right?" That's what happens to that butyrate.
Well, I'll tell you just to add on to that for people who want to entertain. A friend of mine's he has a fabricating company in California, and this is before COVID. This is well before COVID, and all of his guys were sanding down this stuff, and he thought, you know what, this is not. I don't want these guys. He wanted to watch out for his guys, so they were in goggles. But he goes, I'm getting them N95 masks. So he bought a bunch of N95, puts it on his guys, and so OSHA comes in. They go, oh, so and they said, how are you protecting your guys? Oh, they're wearing the N95 mask, and they said, oh, can we see the fit logs? What? Fit logs? Like each one of those has to be fit logged. They have to be fit tested, logged, because if they're not worn appropriately, they're very dangerous. You can go
Right.
back and look at the. So he ended up paying like $5,000 or $10,000 per person for wearing that. Yeah. And then at the Super Bowl, they just drop it off. Say, everyone wear these N95s. No one was fit tested. It wasn't appropriate. None of that was appropriate. So then you look back and you go, like, from a medical standpoint and from a cost standpoint, like, how much money does that all that stuff cost? So yeah, we went a little nutty. And so that's why we're both exiting California for the most part, right? I think that's we start seeing
Yeah.
the writing on the wall, because if it's no common sense and you can't say, hey, I have a question about this, like, even if we're wrong, it's like, explain to me why I'm wrong on
Yeah.
this, the food pyramid, like you've done so many times. Like, have you looked at society lately? I don't think it's going swimmingly, right?
Yeah.
The experts may not be right all the time.
Yeah, everything they told us was exactly wrong, but guys like me are considered kooks. So I, I don't care. I just keep my thing is, if I can help one person at a time, that's about all I can do, right?
Yeah, and
And
that's what you're doing. You go, okay, look, how many followers do you have, right? I don't hear. I have a bunch of people. I go, how did you change your lifestyle? Oh, NSNG helped me. This helped me. Ken Berry helped me. Whatever. Jason Fung
right,
for sure. But all these other guys criticizing you guys, I never hear their names mentioned in 20 years of practice once.
right, right, and look, tens of millions of people have seen the first documentary. We know that, right? We know that from you know gravitas and the checks that come in and everything else. Once you do something like that, once Fat a Documentary became a deal, that's when I started getting locked down. I don't know if you know this, but my Instagram, when it got to 100,000 followers, it started losing followers. So for everyone that came in, they would take away two. And it got all the way back down to 90,000. Now we're back up to like 95,000 because we figured out a way to beat it. But I had someone look into it over at Meta, a friend of a friend who works for Meta, and they looked in and they said, "Oh yeah, you're locked down at the top." They have lockdown levels, and once you get out there and you're doing something, they lock you down.
Yeah. Yeah, we had that on Twitter. My followers, like, I would lose like 40,000 people on one day and then 3,000 here. It was just like crazy. You go, this is,
Yeah.
and a lot of them are bots. Whenever they do these bot things, and they're all gone. It's it's surveilling you, and it's crazy. Like, you never think, like, who cares about a guy like you? I get it, but little podcasts like this, give us a little break. And it's pretty wild.
No,
So,
they think you're dangerous, and you see, once they think you're dangerous, then it's like all bets are off,
well, if they
and
mute you,
that's
like,
kind
who
of the
knows?
problem.
This thing that you're going through right now, is it political? I don't think, I mean, watching the show, I don't see anything where you go, that's a little controversial. I didn't see anything where I go, I don't know. The only thing I would say is, like, it's one of those darn things. Okay, we have this stuff. These, because for me, I'm like, look, I need to lower the bar. Of course, we shall be eating a perfect NSNG diet, right? But some people go, well, I really enjoy having pizza sometimes. Okay, how do we do that? Right?
Right.
If you enjoy having a low carb type pizza, there's tons of different ones out there. Or if you like to have, but I think the point is, every once, if it's your birthday and you want to have a low carb cake, it's going to be different than having brownies and cookies and donuts all day long that are low carb, right?
Well, my thing is, and it sounds like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth when I say this. When it's my birthday, if someone brings me a cake, I'm eating the cake. I'm eating a piece of the cake, right? Um, if I'm going to have a glass of wine, I'm not having dry farm wines, although they make a wonderful product. I'm having a nice wine from France or Italy or somewhere. And people go, wait a minute, I thought you were low carb, no carb, the whole thing. It's like, yes, a few times a year. I don't do a once a month cheat. I don't do
Yeah.
a cheat day once a week. I don't do any of that. But if I'm having something, I'm having it, and then I'm moving on. right? It's a
And the point is you're metabolically healthy. You're at the point where we're all the rest of us are trying to get to, right? So when you're
right,
metabolically healthy, who cares if you have a glass of wine? Who cares if you have a cookie? Like Sean Baker is going to have a cookie and die, right? I mean,
right,
it's that thing when you're metabolically healthy, you're in a different situation than when you're in 350 pounds and your sugars are 400 and you're like, you cannot have anything of that. You got to be really strict at that point. So, yeah, I think that's the thing is you go, okay, do we have these products around to, like just to break the glass on an emergency? Or do we figure out like, I was thinking about it, Vinny, is like if we were all on if you go on Survivor, you're on the island, like, doesn't matter how much you're craving cookies. You're not getting a cookie when you're on the island. There's no cookies to be
right,
had. And you're not
right.
going to go, okay, I'm just going to raise some stuff and I'll get all these preservatives and all this stuff and I'll try to make my own cookie, right? Like you figure that out. And so you go, okay, I'm going to eat meat, drink some
Right.
water, do what you got to do, right? But
I think people talk themselves into, I deserve this. I deserve a
mhm.
treat. I want a treat. There's all kinds of things we can do to talk ourselves into eating sugar. I'm a sugar addict, right? That's generally why I stay away from it because I can't have a little bit, right? So that's why for me, it's like a birthday or if I'm in Europe for Christmas with my in-laws and, there's some special Christmas pudding, as they would call it. And, you have that, right? That's one thing. But if I said, oh, I'm just going to have a little something every day or just once a week, that wouldn't work for me. That's like telling an alcoholic you can have a drink sometimes.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, because you're
Not going to work.
yeah, you can't be so yeah, like so stuck in your way that we got. Yeah, I can never ever like you tell someone you're never gonna have a piece of bread in the rest of your life, they lose their mind. They go, I can't do this.
Right.
Forget it. I'm just gonna go eat what I'm doing. So we figure those things out and go, okay. But a lot of people say, yeah, when I first started out, I had to use some of those brownies. Then I just lost that sweet tooth, and I don't need it if I'm just eating meat and vegetables and staying healthy and watching my stress and getting your sleep. All these other big lifestyle stuff. So, Vinny,
Yeah.
we're running out of time. I knew it would happen. Dang it! But I have to ask you, what's life's best medicine for you, for Vinnie Tortorich? What gets you going? Where do you go when things suck? When you get a diagnosis like you got, like, what keeps you moving forward?
Looking forward to things afterwards. I've already planned to go up Mount Whitney this summer. It's heady because my red blood cells aren't back yet, so I don't know what I'm planning on climbing on. But I put little things in front of me. I called up a friend who has dirt bikes. I used to ride motorcycles a lot, and I said, I want to get back on a dirt bike. I try to put fun things in front of me, to look forward to go, okay, it's not just I'm going to get back and get healthy. I'm going to prove that I'm healthy and go do these things. The last time I ended up doing a bunch of ultra races, the 508 and race across Oregon and a bunch of races, that it's like, all right, I'll know I'm back in with the living if I can go 500 miles on a bike. Right. So I'm doing some of those things again. That never dies for me. Um, One of my friends said, "Are you dying?" I was like, "Why?" He goes, "Planning mountain climbing and dirt bike."
Yeah,
It's like, no, I'm just trying to live.
yeah, you have something to look forward to, and that's important. A lot of people just don't have that thing to look forward to, like gets you going. Last time I talked to you, working on making canoes and stuff. Are you still doing that?
I made that canoe. Did you not ever see it?
No, I don't think I saw it, man.
Oh, hang on, man. Let me find a photo. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you a photo. Are you
I saw
kidding?
the pre like you were working on it, I think at the time.
Yeah, no, man, dude. This thing turned out awesome because I had this guy Joey Schott, who's a master builder. Um, he was there helping me build it, and it was like, here's some good photos of it. Let's see if I can. Nina Teichos was here at the house, and she was like, she couldn't get enough of it. She was like, I need to go back and see that boat again. Um, Here's a photo of it on a dock somewhere.
Oh man, dang.
Yeah,
Wait, is that's a kayak? No?
yeah, it's a kayak.
Yeah, it's a kayak. Dang,
Yeah,
crud.
yeah. My buddy's a big time kayak. He calls it the Stradivarius of kayaks. Um,
That's beautiful, man. Man,
that
people,
is
you gotta
not
go.
that is not a kayak that a first time builder builds.
Yeah,
So
that's amazing. That's ridiculous.
I had probably the number two kayak builder on the planet, Joy Schott, over at Turning Point Boat Works. Give him a
Dang.
little plug there.
Yeah,
Help me with this. And the only guy that's better than him is his good friend, right?
that's awesome.
Nick Shada. And Nick Shada, I was at a small boat convention while I was building it. The best builder in the world came over and he was like, "Oh my God, thank you for doing what you're doing because it's one of Nick Shada's designs." And
Wow.
Nick Shada has a boat in the Museum of Modern Art. It's the same boat, right? So it's an interpretation of one of Nick Shada's designs built by me and Joey Schott. But I'm going to be honest with you, mostly Joey Schott. There's no way a beginning kayaker can build what I built.
But
No.
just being there and just seeing it, oh my gosh, just seeing the finished product, right? And going through all the steps, and you see you have a respect for it, and you understand like, oh, that's just like
Three.
coffee, man. You go, man, coffee. It's like you just go get, and you realize how much stinking work goes into having a cup of coffee, except in California, I guess.
Yeah.
But everywhere else you can have it. So Vinny, how do people track you down if they want to find out about the documentary, what you're doing, all that kind of stuff?
Follow me on X, follow me on Instagram, go to vinnietortorich.com. I'm out there. I'm out there for free every day, helping anyone and everyone. The movie I'm hoping will be up on Amazon soon. If Amazon refuses to put it up, I'll start talking to other companies. You know, there's so many platforms out there.
Yeah, you get one door closes, you go that way. You have
There's
other
Apple,
options of
there's
getting it out
Tubi,
there.
there's YouTube TV, there's Netflix, Hulu. Yeah. There are places I could go and sell this thing. But I wanted to do it on Amazon because I do so much business on Amazon anyway. And if they don't want to do it, I'm good. You know, no love lost. We'll catch you next
Well,
time.
I'm sure they're going to send you a note saying either we're doing it or we're not going to release. They have to do something. They have to pull a
We,
trigger one way or
we
another.
can't, they won't give us an answer.
That's wild, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, do I think something nefarious is going on? No. Does everyone else on the internet think something nefarious is going on? I've been getting 1,000 messages.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, we're always going to have all these theories and ideas and all that stuff. So I know you're going to get it out somehow. Let me know. We'll get it out. I'm one of the fortunate few who got to see it. You did a great job. Again, like great editing, great storyline. Everything's perfect on there. So yeah, yeah, I think I think it'll ruffle feathers. I think, but I think sometimes we have to like reassess and go, okay, am I on the right path? And at least do it. I mean, you always talk about doing the right thing and figuring it out, and being a voice of reason out there in a fanatical body or something like that.
Well, listen, Brian, I appreciate you having me on. I'm going to ask you on the air side. You can't tell me no. Would you like to come back on my show? Because I love talking to you and I'd like to have you back on.
Yeah, remember,
Uh,
you remember when we met, right?
we met near an elevator in
Yeah.
at a convention
Yeah, at the
in
at
San
the Low Carb
Diego.
USA in San
Yeah,
Diego, and I'm like, you're like, I like you. I want you on my show. I'm like, all right, I give you my number. I'm like, the guy at the bar giving his number to the girl, and like, she's not
yeah,
gonna call. All right, then a couple of days later, hey Brian, you still want to come on? I'm like, oh crap, you remember, huh? Cool.
yeah.
So no, I always have a great time. I'd love to come on, and maybe you could drag me and Tro on at some point.
I
Just
think I
talk
had
about life.
Troy.
But yeah,
Did I have Troy on recent? No, I spoke to Troy at length the other day. I need to get Tro back on the show. I love having Tro on. I like getting you guys separate because then you don't have one overpowering the
then we
other.
could talk trash about each other and stuff. And
Yeah, I
what we'll
can
do is
tell.
we'll get you on Low Carb MD when it comes out and get it out to the world so people can find out about it and everything. So good
Absolutely.
stuff, man. Good stuff. The hours, it always goes by too fast. I mean, I always enjoy it. I'll probably
Look,
get
if you ever
canceled,
want me
but
on again soon, I'm always available. Just let
all
me
right,
know.
man. I'll try to get you canceled on your show, so I'll come on your show. See what happens.
You got it.
All right, man. Take care, Vinny. Thank you so much.
Bye bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode. We greatly appreciate your support. We would greatly appreciate a positive thumbs up on all of the platforms like iTunes and Spotify or wherever you're listening. And we just thank you for our Patreon supporters. We greatly appreciate your help in getting this message out. We think there's a lot of important information. And hopefully this helps you. Have a great day, and thank you for listening, and thank you for your support.